Think they made a mistake?
I believe so. I feel like it's because, we could have had any Chris Brown, anybody.
That voice belongs to Byron Murphy, and he sounds completely over it. Truth is, the locker room wasn't exactly vibing with Bad Bunny taking the halftime slot. But the show went on regardless. Fresh tape just leaked, revealing a tense face-off that got hands-on. So, what's the real story? Let's get into it. Let's roll the tape. Long before kickoff, the media frenzy on Radio Row was in full swing, with reporters throwing one specific curveball at the pros. Thoughts on Bad Bunny rocking the stage. The responses blew up instantly, turning into absolute internet gold. Murphy was arguably the first to really speak his mind.
Your favorite Bad Bunny song?
I don't know no Bad Bunny song.
Think they should replace him?
Oh, for sure. NBA.
You think they made a mistake?
I believe so. I feel like it's because, we could have had any Chris Brown.
Was it a blunder? Yeah, I think so. It feels like a missed opportunity. We could have had Chris Brown or just about anybody else. That soundbite tore through TikTok and YouTube, racking up millions of plays in hours. But Murphy wasn't the only one feeling that way. Throughout the pre-game media circuit, player after player echoed the sentiment, fueling compilation videos that caught fire across every social platform. New England's own QB1. Drake Maye, the guy actually starting in the big game, admitted on Radio Row that Spanish tracks aren't on his radar and the headliner was a total stranger to him. He acknowledged the artist's massive fame and said the spectacle would be neat, but you could hear the total lack of enthusiasm. The internet ran with that clip, highlighting just how polite yet out of touch he seemed. Even Seahawks wideout DK Metcalf, also suited up for the matchup, said he sticks strictly to hip-hop and R&B. He confessed he's barely heard a note of the guy's discography. Besides, he mentioned he'd be busy in the locker room anyway, dialing in strategy for the second half. That response made waves as well. Then you had Micah Parsons, who hopped on his podcast to say he respects the hustle. But reggaeton wasn't exactly part of his childhood soundtrack. For a stage this size, he made it clear he would have rather seen heavy hitters like Drake or Lil Wayne. Parsons never bites his tongue, so naturally, his take went viral. Josh Allen chimed in too, admitting his only exposure to the superstar was seeing him trend on Twitter. He cracked a joke about his playlist being strictly country and classic rock, noting he was just there to enjoy the game with his folks. J. Watt, speaking from the Fox Sports desk, gave props to the league for chasing the youth and global demographic, but confessed he misses the days of classic American rock bands. Aaron Rodgers hit the podcast circuit during Media Week and zeroed in on the language barrier. He mentioned that without fluent Spanish, the music just doesn't hit the same for him, despite recognizing the talent involved. And then, Eric Dickerson entered the chat.
Do you think it was a good choice?
Well, first of all, I don't even know who the hell the guy is. I've never heard of him. I'm not even big into music anymore. What's his name?
Bad Bunny.
If he doesn't like the U.S., he needs to keep his behind right where he is. Don't come over here. Then, he asked for the guy's origin story. When told it was Puerto Rico, Dickerson didn't flinch. Where's he from, Puerto Rico? Puerto Rico. If he doesn't want to be one of us, keep him over there. Then the reporter dropped a fact that made the whole rant incredibly awkward. Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. That soundbite exploded instantly. Puerto Rico is literally a U.S. territory. The man is an American citizen. It wasn't just about musical taste anymore. It highlighted a massive blind spot regarding geography, citizenship, and the definition of being American. This footage didn't just stay on ESPN. It bled into entertainment news, political discourse, and the broader culture war. Creators on TikTok and YouTube stitched these moments into viral montages, turning up the volume on the narrative that the country is split in two. Millions watched pro athletes admit they were clueless about one of the world's biggest megastars and didn't want him performing. The public reaction fractured into two distinct sides. One camp argued the players were just keeping it real, they don't vibe with Spanish tracks, and wanted a show that resonated with their own playlists. The other side insisted these hot takes revealed something much uglier. It proved that a Latino icon could move 100 million units globally, outstream giants like Drake and Kendrick, and still be dismissed as a nobody by the American sports establishment. That underlying friction is exactly why the clips took off. It wasn't about the beat, it was about gatekeeping the biggest platform in American entertainment. And that debate didn't stay confined to the locker room. It marched right up to the White House steps, igniting a political firestorm. The drama over Bad Bunny's selection was never really about whether the players could sing along to his hits. It morphed into a massive political brawl involving the highest levels of government, dragging the halftime spectacle into a culture war that had been brewing for months. The match that started the blaze wasn't struck on the gridiron, but on an award stage thousands of miles away from Levi's Stadium. It went down at the 2026 Grammys on February 2nd. Barely a week before Super Bowl 60, Bad Bunny took the mic and gave a speech that would haunt every headline leading up to kickoff. With the world watching, he tackled the heavy stuff head-on: immigration, identity, and how Latino communities are treated across the states. He dropped the line "icy out," and the phrase went nuclear instantly. Fans heard a heartfelt plea for reform and humanity, while critics heard a direct assault on federal law enforcement. But the superstar wasn't done yet. He continued, speaking from a raw place that sat somewhere between defiance and vulnerability.
We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans.
Beyond the stadium walls, however, the response split the country right down the middle. Right-leaning pundits slammed him for dragging politics into a non-partisan awards show, while progressives hailed him as a fearless truth-teller, championing vulnerable communities when they needed it most. But that Grammy moment wasn't a standalone event. It was the climax of a narrative arc that began months prior, with a move that sent shockwaves through the entire music business. Back in June 2025, the superstar scrapped the entire United States portion of his world tour, explicitly blaming safety risks for his largely Latino audience due to skyrocketing reports of ICE enforcement. Every single seat in major stadiums across the country had been snatched up months ahead of time. In a detailed Instagram post, he laid it out plain. He couldn't in good conscience perform when attending his show meant his fans might face detention or be torn away from their families. He insisted his art belonged to everyone, but mostly to his people, those who gave up everything to build a life here, and he refused to cash in on their joy while they were living in terror. Pulling the plug cost the promoters a fortune. Yet, it cranked up the volume on debates regarding what artists owe their fans and how immigration laws hit real people. Those two moments, the canceled tour and the Grammy address, set the stage for the drama that followed. When reporters pressed the White House about the Super Bowl halftime show, the reply came fast and hard. Down at the Mar-a-Lago watch party, once halftime hits, are the screens tuning into Bad Bunny or flipping over to Kid Rock? Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt didn't even blink. I believe the president would choose Kid Rock over Bad Bunny any day. And just like that, the White House officially picked a team in the halftime wars, but the president took it a step further. Donald Trump fired off a barrage of posts on Truth Social right after the set, branding it absolutely terrible, labeling it one of the worst in history, and calling it a slap in the face to real Americans. He zeroed in on the heavy use of Spanish, trashed the choreography, and complained about what he saw as a total absence of patriotism. The conservative media machine wasted no time spinning into gear. Turning Point USA threw together a rival all-American watch party starring Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, and other right-leaning acts as direct counter-programming, pitching the whole clash as a battle for the nation's soul against foreign influence on an American tradition. Stephen A. Smith sat back, watched the chaos, and had some sharp words for the politicians trying to crash Super Bowl Sunday. Now you've got Speaker Johnson jumping in. It's Super Bowl Sunday. For crying out loud, since when does the right wing obsess over the halftime show? Why now? Just because the man sings in Spanish. Smith, who keeps a place in Miami surrounded by bilingual neighbors, aggressively rejected the notion that Spanish lyrics somehow have no place on an American stage. I love my Hispanic brothers and sisters. Love them to death. Honestly, I'm just mad my Spanish isn't better. He then sliced through the political chatter to focus on the NFL's actual game plan. Rock Nation made a brilliant call picking Bad Bunny for Super Bowl Sunday. I'm all for it. The NFL is trying to take this brand global, and that was the spark that ignited this whole inferno. In one corner, you have an artist who leveraged his fame to highlight immigration issues, scrapped a massive tour to keep his fans safe, and flashed ice out on music's biggest platform. In the other corner, the President of the United States, his press team, Congress members, and the entire conservative media apparatus fighting tooth and nail against his right to be there. Between the Grammy speech, the canceled tour, and his fierce advocacy for Latinos, a simple entertainment gig had morphed into a nuclear political showdown. The press painted the conflict as a clash of generations, languages, and ideologies. By the time the whistle blew for kickoff, it was obvious this halftime show was about way more than just tunes. It was about why he was the chosen one. With players openly rejecting him on camera and the White House endorsing a rival act, everyone was asking the same thing. Why did the league pick Bad Bunny to begin with? The answer is years in the making, involving Jay-Z, a meticulously crafted alliance, and numbers that don't lie in any language. The deal between Jay-Z's Roc Nation and the NFL locked in back in August 2019, completely overhauling the roster of who gets the halftime spotlight. That multi-year pact appointed Roc Nation as the league's official strategist and producer for all live music. It handed them the keys to the halftime show, kicking off with Super Bowl Live in 2020, announced side by side by Jay-Z and Commissioner Roger Goodell. This move came right on the heels of the massive fallout over how the league handled Colin Kaepernick's anthem protests. From day one, Roc Nation pivoted toward global appeal and cultural relevance, ditching the old classic rock formula for artists who actually mirror the world's changing face. They made Bad Bunny's selection official on October 15, 2025. The news dropped via a unified press blast from the NFL, Roc Nation, and Apple Music. It landed right after Bad Bunny swept the Grammys, shattering history by taking home Album of the Year with a purely Spanish-language record. Insiders claim Jay-Z personally pushed for the pick, seeing it as the next logical step in showcasing the full spectrum of global culture on the world's grandest stage. Stephen A. Smith later hopped on Good Morning America to break down exactly why this was a genius strategic play. We've got a minute left. Give us your take on Bad Bunny. Jay-Z, the mastermind orchestrating the Super Bowl halftime entertainment, absolutely nailed this chess move. Smith started dropping facts that made the business case impossible to ignore, highlighting a global titan who has dominated Spotify's top spot for 3 straight years. Facing the heat head-on, Commissioner Goodell did not flinch, doubling down on the league's strategy and standing tall behind the selection. We are talking about a true heavyweight among the planet's most celebrated performers. That level of impact is exactly our target for such a massive platform. Goodell shrugged off the noise, insisting the NFL had 0 second thoughts, noting he could not recall a single headliner who did not spark at least a little drama. Pleasing hundreds of millions of viewers all at once is basically an impossible ask. He capped it off with the league's core message for Super Bowl Sunday, promising an electrifying showcase that brings everyone together on the world's biggest stage. Things were just as heated over on The Breakfast Club, where the crew skipped the feelings and went straight for the hard data. Charlemagne the God argued that the whole controversy was off base, stating there is one undeniable fact regarding Bad Bunny. The guy is a global juggernaut, and showcasing that level of fame is the entire point of the Super Bowl. He pushed back hard, reminding everyone that the halftime show is about star power, not individual playlists. It is for the heavy hitters. Period. Look, they might book talent that does not exactly vibe with my crowd, but that is just an opportunity to expand your horizons. DJ Envy sealed the argument by stacking Bad Bunny's massive streaming stats right up against the contenders people claimed deserved the spot. Just to give you a sense of scale, Drake is pulling in roughly 82 million streams every month, while Kendrick sits at 72 million. Bad Bunny is clocking 77 million cold hard facts that cut right through all the emotional noise. Calling Bad Bunny an obscure choice is simply ridiculous. He is outpacing Kendrick Lamar, nipping at Drake's heels, and has moved over 100 million units globally. Fresh off 30 sold-out nights at a 19,000-seat arena in Puerto Rico, that residency's grand finale shattered records on Amazon Music, becoming the platform's most viewed solo performance ever. This was not his first rodeo under the Super Bowl lights either, having debuted back on February 2nd, 2020, at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium for Super Bowl 54. That specific halftime spectacular featured the powerhouse duo of Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. He jumped into Shakira's set with a mashup of hits, including his own smash Kalaita, introducing himself to over 100 million viewers and setting the stage for his eventual takeover. Outside the recording studio, he proved he could work a massive crowd through his high-octane run with the WWE. He put in serious work at the gym to compete in major bouts at WrestleMania 37 and WWE Backlash 2023. The guy pulled off technical maneuvers and put his body on the line, earning major respect for his dedication to live entertainment. Those moments proved he is far more than a studio singer. He is a battle-tested showman, ready for the chaos and intensity of the world's biggest stage. So, when the NFL and Rock Nation surveyed the field, the choice was practically automatic. You had the world's top Latin superstar with insane stats, previous Super Bowl experience, and a knack for crushing live spectacles. Plus, he represents a massive demographic, with Latinos comprising nearly 20% of the country and driving $4.1 trillion in economic power. Bad Bunny was not just an option on a list, he was the only logical headline act. As Levi's Stadium went dark on February 8, 2026, the halftime show unfolded as a stunning visual homage to the heart, history, and grit of Puerto Rico. Over the next 13 minutes, more than 100 million eyes witnessed something far deeper than a standard pop concert. It was a powerful narrative woven into every set piece, every choreographed step, every beam of light, and every curated track. The set kicked off with a sprawling sugarcane field, honoring the island's agricultural roots and the tireless Giberos who forged its cultural soul. Performers donned classic pava hats and white linens, channeling early 20th century laborers with synchronized movements that balanced struggle with solidarity. Then, as the beat dropped and the energy swelled, the scenery shifted dramatically. A vibrant wooden house rose from the stage floor, featuring a front porch wrapped in lush greenery. This traditional casita stood as a beacon of home and resilience, embodying the Puerto Rican spirit that endures through storms, financial hardships, and distance. That little house anchored the entire production, a touchstone Bad Bunny revisited as he moved between different musical chapters. A standout moment transformed the stage into a marquesina, capturing the vibe of those legendary garage parties that define island life. The scene flipped to an urban block party, complete with lowriders and string lights, while dancers in street gear broke out high-octane salsa and perreo moves. The show didn't shy away from politics either. During El Apagón, the lights flickered and died to mirror the chronic blackouts plaguing the island since Hurricane Maria. While the vibe stayed celebratory rather than angry, the underlying message was loud and clear for those in the know. The crew on The Breakfast Club nailed this nuance during their post-game breakdown. They mentioned that their Puerto Rican co-workers broke down the deeper meanings in real time, helping them see the real people behind the performance. I was totally floored. I had no clue. It was such an ingenious move to include that feature. Honestly, it caught me off guard. The layers of cultural meaning just kept peeling back, from the palm trees and sugar canes to those stark utility poles. Every prop was a pointed jab at the administration's inability to restore the grid despite billions in relief funds. My Boricua friends broke it down for me, explaining how the scenery was actually a savage critique of the constant blackouts plaguing the island. All those massive funds poured into the infrastructure, yet the lights stay off. The show hit a massive emotional peak when an actual wedding went down right on stage. A lucky couple, chosen from the fan base, tied the knot in a quick, moving ritual with the superstar officiating. Performers encircled them with blooms and confetti blasts, creating a raw, unscripted moment of pure love that struck a chord with millions watching globally. Musically, the set was a relentless barrage of his biggest international smash hits, performed almost exclusively in his native tongue. He tore through high-octane versions of chart toppers like Titi Me Pregunto, Monaco, Yonaguni, and Dakiti. You could hear the entire stadium screaming every lyric over the broadcast feed. The guest stars just ramped up the intensity of every highlight. Then, the drama spiked when Lady Gaga made a grand entrance during a mellow bridge, teaming up with Benito for a live duet of their fresh track. Die with a Smile. She stunned in a shimmering red outfit atop a podium, flanked by dancers clutching glowing orbs. The vibe swung into deep vulnerability before catapulting back into high-speed choreography. Enter the legend, Ricky Martin, who stormed out during a salsa-heavy section to bring some serious cross-generational pop royalty to the mix. They smashed their styles together in an electric mashup, blending Martin's iconic Livin' La Vida Loca beats with the grit of Yo Perreo Sola. It triggered a massive dance party that spanned decades, tipping a hat to the OGs of the crossover era while shouting out Puerto Rican pride. Karol G brought the heat next, with a fierce take on Amargura and hints of Tusa, locking into a vocal showdown that screamed female empowerment amidst pink lights and floral visuals. Cardi B jumped in for a quick, rapid-fire verse during a trap segment, injecting that distinct New York Dominican swagger into the flow. Pedro Pascal brought the cinematic flair, delivering a moving monologue about heritage and returning home in both languages during a moody transition. Benito cycled through several looks, ending the night in a custom white football jersey that looked fresh off the rack. The back rocked his family name, Ocasio, along with the number 64. Near the end, he grabbed a pigskin and sprinted across the stage with theatrical flair. That instantly sparked viral jokes comparing his stats to the actual pros on the bench. For the big finish, flags from all over the Americas waved high, with Puerto Rican and American banners taking center stage to drive home the unity theme. Right after the whistle blew, the league's social channels flooded feeds with coordinated clips and highlight reels. They kept dropping one-word iconic framing the performance as a history-making event in the world of halftime entertainment. The narrative was all about the dazzling visuals, the cultural pulse, and the international reach, keeping the focus strictly on celebration, the fallout. The second the stage went dark and the teams took the field, the reaction across the states and beyond was instant, heavy, and totally polarized. For Latinos specifically, this wasn't just a 12-minute concert sandwiched into a football game. It marked a historic shift, a moment of visibility that many called the most significant display of representation ever seen on network TV. Up in the Bronx, home to the city's densest Puerto Rican population, there's a spot called Barrio BX. That joint turned into the epicenter for raw, genuine emotion that no algorithm could ever simulate. A beat reporter caught the vibe live on the ground. Benito absolutely tore the roof off right here at Barrio BX. Half the crowd didn't even care about the scrimmage. They showed up strictly for the halftime spectacle. Crowds gathered just to witness the performance, with plenty of folks ignoring the game entirely. Once the beat dropped, the energy was something you couldn't fake or script. We only showed up for Benito, and let me tell you, there was dancing, singing, and straight-up tears. That heavy feeling rippled way past the walls of One Borough Eatery. People felt a bond smashing through borders, languages, and ages. This was for us. It was a massive win for the culture. That gut-level energy was something folks found hard to describe. It proves we've arrived in this era. I was shaking down to my bones. The next morning on the Breakfast Club, the crew unpacked the spectacle they'd just seen. Charlemagne the God admitted the night belonged to one man. Forget Black History Month for a second. There was no celebration last night. It was the Benito show. Period. Instead of hating, they embraced what the set did for viewers who don't speak a lick of Spanish. That whole language gap issue, which critics hammered on for months, turned out to be a total non-factor once the lights came up. I don't need to speak it to feel it. That statement nailed the core truth of what went down on that stage. The set jumped over language hurdles because it relied on pure energy, visual drama, and cultural soul that hit home without a translator. The host flipped the script with a final thought that changed the whole conversation. It's a chance to get educated, and that is exactly what the show delivered. This wasn't merely entertainment, it was a massive cultural showcase, an education for the 68 million Americans who share that heritage. The commentators emphasized that Benito remained unapologetically authentic, honoring his roots during every single moment of the performance. That set was absolute fire. Straight up, you could feel him championing his people, uplifting his community, and carrying the pride of Puerto Rico on his shoulders. Then you have to address the elephant in the room, that Grammy acceptance speech. That specific moment ignited a massive firestorm of controversy just days before the Super Bowl kickoff. The infamous moment he dropped that controversial line. It got politicians so riled up they were actually demanding the league scrub him from the halftime lineup completely. Yet, if you really analyze the full context, he wasn't preaching division at all. It was the exact opposite. He explained that hatred only feeds on itself, growing stronger when met with more hostility. He declared, there is only one force strong enough to conquer hate. He completed that thought with a single word that instantly dismantled every claim of divisiveness critics had hurled at him for weeks. Love. That is the answer. We need to evolve. Even when we battle, we must do it with compassion. That was the real takeaway. Not animosity, not political gamesmanship, just pure love. When the confetti finally drifted down at Levi's Stadium, that sentiment had reached hundreds of millions across the globe, delivered unapologetically in Spanish on America's grandest stage by a Puerto Rican icon who was told he had no place being there.